the thorough side too, you got M.O.P on there as well. And I was interested, why did you end up putting yourself last on that one, verse wise?
Well, that was a song. Sorry about that.
All good.
That was a song actually that was done a while back too. That was actually a song that was done for the Contraband album. And in particularly when Bill walked in and heard the song, he came up with his verse first, like right off the back. He like, yeah, let me in the booth. I'm going there right now on that. So that's how that happened. It wasn't a planned lineup of who went first. It just was, he felt the song and he went right in and laid it. So he had the first verse on it, you know. And then me and Slap laid out ours. So I mean, me coming in last on the joint, it wasn't a big thing, because we take turns sometimes, you know. And a lot of times that's how it is. Like whoever kind of comes up with something first, that's who goes in first.
Okay, fair enough. Now taking it back to the Firing Squad era, M.O.P. of course started off. They were on Select Records and then moved to Relativity with Firing Squad, and then they had Premiere. They had all these different changes. So when you that was also the first time I was hearing of you, was in this era, the end of '96. So for you, what was it like, you know, seeing their progression, seeing them change labels, seeing them have some success, but then get with Premiere, like all these big changes that were happening with M.O.P while you were doing Firing Squad? What did that show you? What did that teach you? What did you learn and earn from that experience?
Well, first and foremost, I was just happy to see my boys moving. You know, M.O.P didn't start out as a group. We started out as a family. So, you know, we all really come out the sandbox together. You know, we grew up together. We, you know, we had shared a lot of the same experiences, you know, coming up, and learned a lot of what we know, you know, by collective experiences. So just to see them moving, and I'm like, yo, you know what I mean? Yo, my boys is moving, they doing their thing. That's what's up, you know. As things started to elevate, I saw the elevation, but I didn't probably even realize how significant it was at that time, if that makes sense. You know, like I seen the hook up with Preem. I knew that was a beautiful thing. And Preem, like my I stopped that. Yo, Preem, look, Preem, love y'all shit. I stopped that right there. But I didn't know what, you know, career-wise that can mean for them and so forth. I just was like, Premiere is one of the greatest, and I'm a big fan of Premiere. Premiere like y'all shit, so I know y'all shit about to blow. Y'all definitely got it. I always knew they had it anyway, you know, so I just was glad to see them actually moving.
Okay. And then also around this time, and he also worked with you on My Will, Big Jazz, Jaz-O, the Jazz, all of his what was, because he was clearly out and had success before M.O.P, so he was a veteran at the game by the time he started working with you guys. What did you learn or see, or did he explain on how to move and learn and earn in the game from Big Jazz early on?
Well, to be truthful, Big Jazz was more of a conserved type of dude. So he didn't do a lot of talk about intricate stuff with the business. You know, like he would come in, he would play some songs. I actually met Jazz from one of the times that he came down to the studio to play some music for Bill and Fame, for M.O.P. And I was like, yo, that beat dope. And I'm like, yo, let me get that beat. and Bill like, nah, son, that's a beat for Jay-Z, you know. And I was like, well, let me get that. He was like, yo, that's his boy. You like, you know, he's not gonna give you the beat. So I was like, yo, but I do like his work. And so I was like, yeah, you know, when I start working on my joint, I would love to get some music from you.
Okay.
So that's basically how that went. And I mean, shout out to Jaz-O, mad cool dude. He's humble. I don't know if you ever met him. He's not really super talkative. He's, like he speaks when he needs to speak, and other than that, he let his music speak for him.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I've been a fan of his since he was the Jazz and been following him all these years, and I've been doing all this stuff for all these years, but I've never met him, never talked to him, never nothing. But he's definitely to me one of the all-time greats. And people I think forget how great of a rapper he was. Like,
Right.
now I think he's more looked at probably as a producer, but lyrically, stylistically, even aesthetically, he was way ahead of the game on so many levels. So big shout out to the Jazz, Big Jazz, Jaz-O,
So,
all day.
yes.
And for you too, with My Will, that was, back in '97 in this era. I just remember I did review the album in a source, and one of the things I remember at the time was that it was relatively short. So how and why do you remember that it wasn't that long of an album?
Well, I mean, the label usually only pays for like 10 songs. And we had been given a date to turn the album in, which at the time we got given the date, we had exactly 3 weeks to complete the album. Finish recording, mix, master, have it
Wow, that's
turned in.
fast.
Yeah. So
Why was it so fast or so
um
quick?
that I don't remember exactly. But I do know that at the time when we got the call that we needed the album turned in by a particular date, I do remember that we rented out, I think it was Sony Studios, and I want to say Chung King, but yeah, I think it was Chung King and Sony Studios. We rented out and basically was round the clock. I rented a hotel room. Well, Lays had rented out a hotel room for me out in Manhattan. I lived in Brooklyn, so this is how I'll let you know. I wasn't even going back to Brooklyn. I wasn't even going back home. I'm like, yeah, we going around the clock it. So would go to the studio, lay down the music, go back to the hotel, then start mixing. I go to another studio, start laying some music, go back to the hotel, then start mixing. So it was like that type of thing. And so yeah, so it was a short turnaround as of the time that we actually got the call to turn it in, and the time that we actually needed to turn it in.
Okay.
So that could have been why it was short. I know a lot at that time. A lot of people was doing a lot of songs,
Yeah.
like 15, 18 songs on the album, but the label only really paying for like 10. So other than that, you just throwing freebies in there in the hopes that one of them, might be that one that take off.
Yeah, people forget it's the music business. And
Right.
speaking of that, with the like you had mentioned, Lazy Lays, and then obviously M.O.P being on Relativity, was it just an easy? Did Lazy Lays or somebody shop for you, or was it just because M.O.P was at Relativity, you guys felt it was best to stay with them?
Well, that was I know that a couple of people, when they was leaving Select Records, a couple of people had came to the table. A couple of different labels came to the table and expressed their interest. Uh, and I think that out of the few labels that came to the table, Relativity was ready to offer the most comprehensive deal for the whole family, as opposed to just M.O.P. So they said, well, okay, but look, we interested in M.O.P. and we interested in Tef. And so that might have been one of the things that was helpful in deciding which direction to go. I think the common thought was, if we're all together in one place, we have more leverage, as opposed to you got one person over here, one person over there, and that label, they might not be the priority over there. It's not, it just kind of could get messy. And we, just kind of really trying to get our footing under us, M.O.P was ringing a little bit, but it was still early in the game. They only did one album before they went to Relativity.
Right. Okay. And then with My Will on Get Mine, I do remember, it just struck me, too, as somebody that's coming from the M.O.P, the first family, and all this, that you had said how the world is a ghetto no matter where you go. And I remember when I heard that way back, I was like, man, that's interesting because I've been all through Brooklyn. Obviously, I didn't grow up there, but I've been through most of it. And people obviously from Brooklyn love Brooklyn so much. So what was it? What had happened, or what did you seen, or what did you understand that made you want to throw that in there? That hey, man, everywhere is could be a ghetto too.
Well, everybody like to rep their hood. Everybody feel like their hood is the hood, and so forth. And of course, me coming from Brownsville, I rep my hood. But I actually always, was the type of person too that'll go to other places. And, you go to other places and not even necessarily in New York, out of state. I went to like New Haven, Connecticut, and like people be like, "Who is New Haven, Connecticut?" But you get out there and them dudes get down out there. Like, yeah, don't think that you're gonna go out there and it's gonna be a sweet deal. And in a lot of places, it's like that. A lot of these little pockets in the country, you know, you got like-minded people. They think kind of the same way you think. Might not be the exact same way, but they not pushovers. They not sweet. They for all practical purposes, they hold their respect. And when you start to move around and you see that, it's like, yeah, it ain't just your hood. It's like that. It's like that.
Yeah, that's one. It might look different, but it is the same situation.
Right. Exactly.
Because I remember, because I grew up in Maryland, right between Baltimore and D.C., so I was about 20 miles from each.
Right. So either way you would have went, you would have saw a different kind of crazy.
So
D.C. was crazy. Baltimore was crazy. It's like,
yeah. I mean, D.C. you had the government buildings, but still all the chaos. Baltimore, you didn't have the government buildings, but the chaos. So it's like it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah. So Tef, what you got the two sides of every story that's out now. Everybody needs to pick up. The link is down there in the description if you haven't checked it out yet. Glad to see you're back in business, making things happen. What else should people be checking for or be looking out for that you got coming up?
Well, like I said, we just started the new production company. Me and Jazzy was called 420 Music. So I got my little.
Yeah, that's a nice one right there.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, 420 Music. So we in the studio still now. We banging out joints. We got another project that's being wrapped up. That will be coming after the two sides to every story. And you guys will definitely be hearing more about 420 Music, more about Jazzy Moto. And again, as far as her as a producer, she's very, very dynamic. And right now, we giving them a taste of what's going on with two sides to every story. That's going to be dropping on the 30th, actually, in the next couple of days. And after that, then we'll start bringing out some more stuff and letting them see a little bit more about what 420 is about.
All right, well there it is. Well, Tef, man, really appreciate you coming through the Unique Access, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me, man. Appreciate that, definitely.